those inquiries are now.
Have you managed to track down the company which owned or operated the charter flight?
We're working with Operations Department of Essendon Airport at the moment.
We'll have an update later.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Yes, it's Emergency Services speaking there at Essendon Airport, just a short live as we go to air this morning regarding the latest information. This crash unfolded at 9 a.m. this morning. The aircraft, Beechcraft B200 King Air, took off from Essendon Airport. As emergency services have described, a catastrophic engine failure has resulted in the crash. The reports from witnesses were that there were a number of explosions. The aircraft has clipped and backflipped into the shopping centre there, where Spotlight and Focus on Furniture are both located. Emergency services are unable to tell us at this stage numbers of casualties or the extent of staff that were located inside the DFO at the time. It was to open at 10 o'clock this morning, the crash happening at 9. Staff could have been around at the time, but that's still yet to be confirmed. There is a little bit of information that's also coming out about the aircraft. So Beechcraft B200 Super King Air. We understand it's a charter flight that was taking off from Essendon Aircraft on its way to King Island. There's a suggestion it may be operated by Australian corporate jet centres. They are unsure at this stage if it is their plane, but an aircraft was scheduled to take off at 8:30 this morning, according to their information. So none of that has been officially confirmed yet from emergency services, and Australian corporate jet centres is working to establish if it is their aircraft at the moment.
All right, we should quickly confirm Police Minister Lisa Neville said that 5 people were on board, but so far no casualties have been confirmed. We'll continue our rolling coverage right after the break. You're watching Today Extra. We're bringing you rolling coverage of an aviation disaster that has occurred this morning in Melbourne. An aircraft, we understand a Beechcraft single-engine civilian aircraft, has crashed into the DFO factory outlet near Essendon Airport in Melbourne. We understand it was a charter flight on its way to King Island, taking off just before 9 o'clock this morning. It reportedly had 5 people on board. In fact, that has been confirmed by Victoria's Police Minister Lisa Neville, that 5 people were on board this aircraft. What hasn't been confirmed is whether there have been casualties. No casualties have been confirmed. It's understood the pilot made 2 mayday calls just before the crash. There were earlier reports that it was an air ambulance craft. That, in fact, is not the case. It was a civilian aircraft, and reports that it's thought during takeoff the plane veered into that shopping centre outlet that in fact sits right alongside the Tullamarine Freeway and Essendon Airport. We heard from police earlier suggesting that it was a catastrophic engine failure just moments after takeoff. It obviously has had a huge impact on traffic in what is a very busy part of Melbourne. The Tullamarine Freeway remains closed in both directions. We've heard that also the Calder Freeway between Bell Road and the Western Ring Road is closed in both directions as well. Just an awful scene there in Melbourne, and obviously DC pictures flooding in from passers-by and those on the scene.
And from all around Melbourne. I mean, you know, when the impact happened, the plumes of black smoke that went up in the air could be seen far and wide. And there's a lot of shots coming in from social media. But we do have Professor Greg Bamber, who's an aviation expert at Monash University, who's on the line now. Professor, thanks for speaking to us on what seems to be a very tragic morning in Melbourne. Can we ask you, I mean, we're hearing reports from Victorian Police that it was a catastrophic engine failure. If they're describing something like that for a craft like this, a Beechcraft B200, what are we talking about here? So can you expand on that?
Well, it's very early days. The crash was only 90 minutes or so ago. There'll obviously be investigations. We don't know what might have caused it. These are single-engine aircraft, which make them vulnerable, although Australia's general aviation is pretty safe on the whole, and we have good regulations here, so we'll have to wait for the investigation. It possibly could have been a human error or a mechanical error. We just don't know yet.
You know, just how common, as you were just saying, we have very stringent, guidelines in place in the aviation here. So this sort of light airplane crash, this is not very common in Australia, is what you're saying?
It's not, although the safety record in the light aircraft sector is not the same as in the commercial sector, where there are much more stringent regulations, and of course in commercial civilian aircraft we've got more than one pilot always on the plane, and much greater inspection and safety regulations that are enforced compared with in the general light aircraft sector. Nevertheless, it's still very safe.
Greg, when an emergency like this unfolds on a single-engine aircraft, such as a Beechcraft, and it's only seconds after takeoff, what goes through the pilot's mind? Is it trying to find somewhere safely to land, and how quickly and easily is it to get those mayday calls off? Because we understand that the 2 mayday calls were made just seconds after takeoff.
Well, the pilot's deploying all his or her resources to try and get out of the situation, but right after takeoff it's very difficult to avert an accident like this, very, very close to the takeoff situation. That's the most dangerous times in flying are, of course, the landing and the takeoff situation. But one thing I think this highlights for Melbourne, which has been voted the world's most livable city for several years now, is how vulnerable the access route to its major international airport, Tullamarine, is, which is very close by to where the crash was at Essendon Airport, the old Melbourne airport. And unlike Sydney, Brisbane, Paris, London, Melbourne does not have a rail link to its airport. So now the Tullamarine Freeway is closed and people are missing their flights, and this happens not because of an air crash, but because of road crashes or roadworks all too often. Melbourne and Victoria really needs to get on with the job of creating an alternative access route into its international airport,
Greg,
Tullamarine.
I guess one of the concerns, though, we heard our state political reporter Andrew Lunn mention a short time ago, it's very built up around that area. For a pilot who's involved in an emergency trying to bring an aircraft down safely in an area that's heavily built up would have been a difficult task.
Well, that's right, and right alongside a very busy shopping centre, which was due to open. Fortunately, the shopping centre was not yet open at about 9 o'clock when the crash took place. If it had happened an hour or so later, the direct factory outlet, the DFO shopping centre, gets amazingly busy during the day. So that was one fortunate aspect of it. But we are waiting for the investigations. The emergency crews are there, and we'll need a thorough investigation in exactly what went wrong and what needs to be put in place to try and prevent this kind of accident again in the future.
Okay, Professor Greg Bamber from Monash University, who is on the phone this morning, thank you so much for your time on this very, very tragic morning coming out of Melbourne. And we're still seeing pictures this morning here about what's been happening outside of Essendon. We will keep you updated. Stay with us here on Today Extra at 9. We'll be right back.
All right, we're bringing you rolling coverage this morning of this air disaster that has occurred at Essendon Airport, just near Essendon Airport in Melbourne. Davina, what's the latest?
The latest information is this crash happened at 9 a.m. this morning, the light aircraft crashing into the DFO factory outlet near Essendon Airport. It's understood the plane came down not long after takeoff. The plane has been confirmed as a Super King Air Beechcraft B200. It's believed it was a charter flight en route to King Island. There are reports 5 people may have been on board. At this stage, though, casualties have not been confirmed by emergency services. Without that, though, extraordinary pictures have been filtering into our newsroom all morning from social media and from the 9 News helicopter that is also located at Essendon Airport, showing the DFO building engulfed in flames, smoke billowing into the air, and that tower of smoke can be seen right across the city. Shocked bystanders have also reported seeing the plane come down. 2 loud explosions, the aircraft clipping the building before crashing into the spotlight at the back of the DFO. Debris from the crash site is also scattered along nearby roads. The Tullamarine Freeway is expected to remain closed for some time. The latest from emergency services is that the outbound lanes remain blocked, but they will open shortly. The inbound lanes on the Tullamarine Freeway will remain blocked for some time with debris located on those roads. But as we've seen across the morning, a very difficult situation for emergency services, David and Georgie, not only just to make it safer for people in that area and to contain that fire, but also to work out exactly what happened.
It certainly is, Davina. Now, Victorian Police held a press conference just a few moments ago. Superintendent Mick Fruin gave an update.
A Beechcraft airplane was taking off from Essendon Airport, from the runway. Close to taking off from the runway, it called in a mayday. We understand that there potentially was a catastrophic engine failure, but we're unsure at this stage. It gained a slight degree of altitude before crashing into the back of the DFO and focus on furniture. Outbound lanes at the moment of the Tullamarine Freeway are blocked. It is our intention to open them shortly. Inbound lanes of the Tullamarine Freeway are closed and will remain closed for some time yet.
Superintendent Mick Fruin there from the Victorian Police.
Truly an awful situation unfolding there in Melbourne. We'll be back with more right after this. You are watching Today Extra, and we are bringing you rolling coverage of an aviation disaster that's occurred just before 9 o'clock this morning. This is what we know so far. An aircraft has crashed into a designer factory outlet near Essendon Airport in Melbourne. We heard from Police Minister Lisa Neville a short time ago. She has confirmed that it was a Beechcraft air charter flight headed for King Island and that it had 5 people on board. So far, no casualties have been confirmed. It's believed the pilot made 2 mayday calls just before the crash. There were earlier reports that it was an air ambulance craft. Ambulance Victoria have since said that is not the case. At this stage, it's thought that during takeoff, the plane veered into that shopping centre, which is situated alongside Essendon Airport. Melbourne Fire Brigade crews are on the scene, and there have been dozens of trucks responding. Passers-by have reported that they heard a number of explosions just after the plane crashed. The shopping centre was due to open at 10 a.m. It's, however, believed that the crash happened in the retail section of the centre, and therefore staff, we understand, had not yet arrived, and that in fact we're going to hear a statement from the designer factory outlet in just a moment. In fact, DC, you've got that now.
I do. They've put this on their Facebook page, DFO of Essendon. DFO Essendon is currently closed after an incident in which a light plane crashed into the rear of the Homemaker Centre this morning. The centre was not open at the time. We are currently working with Essendon Fields and Victorian Emergency Services, who are coordinating and managing the immediate response to this incident. We are unable to confirm if there are any injuries or fatalities at this stage. The thoughts of all of vicinity centres are first and foremost for the safety and welfare of those directly impacted in the incident. We will continue to provide further updates as information becomes available. Davina?
Sorry, Davina, if I could just cut in. I understand we have another witness on the line to give us their account. Anita, are you there?
I am, yes.
My understanding is you were doing the school run as this all unfolded. What did you see?
We just, the school bell had just rung for the kids to go into the classroom, then all of a sudden kids just started screaming, and we looked over the back of our oval and we could just see the smoke, and you could just hear things exploding, and yeah, we weren't quite sure where it had hit. We were hoping, it hadn't hit houses, and yeah, heard that it was DFO later on.
So, sorry, where is your school located?
So our school's in Strathmore. So yeah, it happened, we could see it in the distance over the back of our oval, and there was just black smoke, and yeah, very quickly you could hear sirens and saw the chopper up in the air, and yeah, it was a bit of a shock because we knew it wasn't going to be good by the amount of smoke that was there.
We've seen some very disturbing pictures of that huge plume of black smoke. Just elaborate on what you heard.
We could just hear, sort of in the distance, you could hear sort of explosion sounds. I don't know what it was, obviously, as it hit something, and you could just see the thick black smoke, and you could smell it after a little while.
And you mentioned...
the school just got the kids in the classroom very quickly into lockdown, and yeah, they handled it really well.
So you're suggesting that some of the children might have actually seen it before they got into the classroom?
I don't know what they saw, but yeah, they definitely saw the smoke. It was right there. You couldn't miss it.
Anita,
and they were all screaming around the area.
Is the school still in lockdown this morning, and how easy is it to get out of the area now, considering there are significant traffic delays in the area with roads closed?
As far as I know, they are. They said with the advisement, that it was safe for them to come out. But around the school, there's no traffic at all. It's fine. People are just staying away, I think.
Probably a smart thing too. And we hope that everyone stays safe in the school as well. But thank you for your time this morning.
No worries.
Davina, we have some more information coming in?
Plenty more information across the morning for you. But the latest information, though, is from the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, who has asked anyone who may have witnessed the crash to come forward. We've seen lots of pictures on social media this morning, people sharing their witness accounts. So if you did witness the accident, their witnesses are asked to call 1800 020 616. That's the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, looking for as many witnesses to come forward. We will go to a break now and return with more information shortly.
Welcome back. You're watching Today Extra. We're bringing you rolling coverage of an aviation disaster that's occurred just before 9 o'clock this morning in Melbourne. This is what we know so far. A civilian aircraft has crashed into the designer factory outlet that is positioned right alongside Essendon Airport in Melbourne. Police Minister Lisa Neville has confirmed that it was a Beechcraft air charter flight and it was on its way to King Island, and it had 5 people on board. So far, no casualties have been confirmed. It's believed the pilot made 2 mayday calls just before the crash, and at this stage, obviously it's early days, the investigation is ongoing, but it's thought that during takeoff, the plane, just moments after takeoff, veered into that shopping outlet, and the pictures there illustrate just how disastrous that was.
Yeah, it's quite a tragic events that are happening in Melbourne this morning. We do have Brett McLeod on the ground now. Brett, Victoria Police Superintendent Mick Fruin this morning described this as a catastrophic engine failure. What more do we know?
Well, I've been speaking to eyewitnesses here this morning who saw the crash. Now, behind me, that building there, you can't see the damage, but that is the building where all the damage is. As close as that is to me, on the other side, that's how close the runway is where the plane took off. A witness who said he was driving his truck past said he saw the plane take off and then seemed to hover strangely and start banking left. That would tie in with the fact that it was catastrophic engine failure, which led to a mayday call before the plane had even taken off. So it looks like the pilot had very little time, if any, to react. The plane's then banked, done a sort of cartwheel into these buildings, slamming into the DFO about 9 o'clock this morning, hitting the Spotlight store, causing extensive damage to the JB Hi-Fi. One of the witnesses I spoke to said he drove into this car park, but the fire, the concussion of the plane crash meant it was too hard to get inside. He couldn't see anyone inside. We're still waiting for more information as to whether there was anyone inside those affected parts of the buildings who might still be there. I have spoken to a couple of people who are inside the building. They've been told by the employer, strangely, they can't go on camera, but they said that the whole back of that area at JB Hi-Fi has been destroyed. They can't get back inside. There's going to be some structural engineering inspections going on, as well as inspections for fires. Now, fire crews, there's at least 16 trucks still here. Fire crews say they believe they've got all the fires out, but they're checking for hotspots, not only inside the buildings themselves. There's a lot of cars, staff cars parked at the back. They're making sure that none of those cars has any fires smouldering in there as well. It's going to be a long time before this area is even declared safe.
Such a catastrophic scene, Brett. We're seeing it at the height of this disaster with the flames, that huge plume of black smoke, debris everywhere. If it is confirmed, and it seems to have been by your police minister there, that 5 people were on board, it would seem not a lot of hope for any survivors when you look at that scene of destruction.
No, none at all, unfortunately, Georgie. Yes, there were 5 people on board. We believe the pilot was a man in his 60s with a lot of experience, and it looks like it was a charter flight heading to King Island with 4 other people. More than that, there are a lot of rumours. We're still waiting to get confirmed exactly who they are and where they were from, because they may have been from overseas. That detail, though, is still unconfirmed. This airport has had its share of tragedy in the past. It is very close to a lot of housing here. This was the principal airport in Melbourne before Tullamarine was built. If you see those pictures, for example, of the Beatles arriving in Melbourne, it was here at Essendon Airport. And it's still extensively used by emergency services, charter flights. Our own Channel 9 helicopter operates out of here. And this is one of the problems with having airports in largely suburban areas where the suburbs are coming and surrounded the airports with catastrophic cases like this.
And we are having a traffic update now, which is the inbound traffic in Tullamarine Freeway. It's closed and will remain so. The outbound traffic of Tullamarine will reopen, obviously because of the debris that is on Tullamarine is causing quite a distress there. Also, the Calder Freeway between Bell Street and Western Ring Roads. That's all from Victoria Roads with those updates this morning, Brett. But thank you so much for your time this morning, and we will cross to you very, very shortly with more on 9 News. Brett McLeod there. But it's just, you know, these pictures that are coming on social media on a day like today, which really does play such a big part of giving us information of what's happening on the ground, Georgie.
Oh, these are just absolutely awful pieces of vision that are coming through, without a doubt. We will bring you the very latest information as it comes to hand. Stay with us. You're watching Today Extra.